Hey guys, tonight we drift through golden sands and fragrant winds into a world few remember but all should, where thick, perfumed oils once flowed like treasure, where hair told stories, and where a glint of shea on your scalp could mean you're royalty or at least invited to sit close to one. You're standing in the heart of the Mali Empire. Centuries ago, as twilight settles over a courtyard shaded by date palms, the sun's last light catches in 100 braids, coils, and carefully oiled curls. And trust me, you probably won't survive this humidity. The Sahel doesn't mess around. Your skin's already dry, your scalp's halfway to a crisis, and the women here, they've had their oil blends locked down for generations. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing how far this sleepy caravan travels. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're in the courtyard of a noble house in Niani, the capital of the Mali Empire, around the 13th century. The breeze smells of sun-warmed stone and clove oil. A servant fans the coals under a small brass pot. Today's hair oil is being gently warmed. Not too hot, not too fast. Patience is part of the ritual. Always was. The lady of the house lounges nearby, her long braids wrapped loosely under gauzy indigo cloth. Her hair has been prepped for the real star of the evening, a golden orange concoction made from ground baobab seeds, mixed with powdered amber and a mysterious extract the locals call sunbark. Historians still argue whether sunbark referred to a now-extinct tree or just really enthusiastic marketing. Oil was more than a cosmetic here. It was lineage. It was politics. It was charm in liquid form. The thickest, richest blends were reserved for the elite, carefully measured out like coin. A traveler once noted that a Malian woman's hair gleamed like polished ebony, and while he probably meant it poetically, he wasn't wrong. These oils didn't just sit. They sealed, they softened, they scented every social encounter. You're handed a small clay jar, slightly warm, fragrant with lemongrass, and something darker, smokier. The woman beside you smiles as if to say, "Careful, it stains." This particular blend, for the midwives. The cooling herbs are supposed to stay to hand during birth and keep away evil spirits. Practical and supernatural. The Mali Empire was big on multitasking. In this world, oiling hair is a slow, deliberate ceremony. The combs are carved from bone, the hands practiced, and the silence deep. A girl's first oiling marks her entry into womanhood. An elder's final oiling before burial is done with a different blend, one heavy with myrrh and bitter orange peel. Even the afterlife expects moisturized scalps. Among the nobility, rare oils became gifts exchanged between families, tucked into dowries or smuggled between cities in hollowed-out ivory bracelets. Some were thought to carry luck, others fertility, a few scandal. There's one infamous story about a queen's maid who accidentally used the emperor's ceremonial oil to prep her own hair for a festival. The scent lingered all through the palace, and so did the whispers. She disappeared for 2 years, reappeared with 3 new bracelets and a house of her own. Coincidence? Even the men had their blends, especially warriors. Their oils were thicker, often infused with ashes from sacred fires and the pulp of wild fruits meant to harden the mind. There's a fringe theory that the most successful generals had custom oils blessed by griots, who whispered battle songs into jars before sealing them. You pass a low bench where a young girl, no older than 8, is having her scalp massaged with something pungent and green. Morina, maybe, or mint steeped in goat fat. She doesn't flinch. She's heard the stories. Good oiling today means fewer tangles tomorrow. Maybe even a husband in 10 years, if you believe the aunties. At night, these oils glow faintly in the firelight. And for the truly elite, some jars contain flecks of mica or powdered pearl, suspended in suspension like glittering promises. You imagine someone, maybe a daughter of Sundiata himself, twisting her hair into a thick coil, pausing only to add one last drop of gold-flecked grease. But don't get too enchanted. The empire wasn't just hair rituals and scented evenings. Getting these ingredients wasn't easy. Some roots had to be dug from riverbanks deep in enemy territory. Others were traded from camelback, One flask of oil worth a goat or a month's rent. And yes, even then, some folks sold knockoffs. There were scams. Imagine paying full price for sunbark oil, only get watered-down palm fat and a headache. Still, there's something deeply soothing about how central this all was to daily life. Hair oil wasn't a luxury. It was care, it was culture, it was continuity. The jars sat on shelves like family heirlooms. Some were passed down, their contents replenished, their secrets guarded. They carried the scent of ancestors, of stories, of dust, wind, and survival. And as you lean back under the Sahel stars, scalp tingling slightly from the last warm application, you feel it too, that timeless pulse of care passed from hand to hand, from head to head, all the way through history. You wake, or more accurately, you never fully woke, to the slow rumble of hooves and wheels creaking through packed earth streets. The city of Niani stirs around you, but softly, like a lion stretching in the heat. You're walking now, half dreaming, into the organized chaos of a Malian market. And while gold and salt may dazzle the historians, your eye is caught by something quieter. Small corked bottles glinting amber in the light, nestled among hand-woven mats and brass trinkets. This is where the real trade happens. Oils, powders, roots coiled and twined like nervous secrets. The Mali Empire didn't just build its wealth on bullion. Though yes, there was a frankly ridiculous amount of gold. It was the trade routes that made Mali hum. Camel caravans snaked through Sahara, loaded not just with gold bricks and salt slabs, but with the raw ingredients of beauty. Dried seeds, chunks of tree resin, bundles of aromatic bark. You probably imagine traders shouting over each other, but it's more of a murmur here. Deals are made with glances and hands dipped into samples. You hover near one stall, where a woman with sun-darkened skin and eyes sharp as obsidian is measuring out crushed shea kernels into a worn leather pouch. Her tools are simple, just a mortar, a pestle, and a rhythmic elbow, but the result is silky, warm, and slightly nutty. Fresh shea butter. This batch, meant for braiding. Richer and more fragrant than the stuff used for cooking or burns. And yes, even within one tree's yield, there's a social hierarchy. Across from her, a younger vendor holds out a bowl of deep orange paste. It glistens like honey, but it's gritty to the touch. This is fermented tamarind oil, she explains, left to ripen in clay pots. It's for those with stubborn scalps, she adds, smirking. You note that one bottle has a scrap of goat hide tied around the neck. Probably a blessing from a healer. Historians still argue whether these beauty goods were considered luxury or medicine, or both. A scalp infection, a spiritual cleansing, or prepping for a royal dinner could all call for the same jar. One traveler wrote that oils in Mali were as common as salt, but twice as sacred. Hard to fact-check him now, but you feel the truth in that. You pass under the awning of a spice trader who also sells oil steeped with cinnamon bark and dried hibiscus. Each blend is handwritten in Arabic on slips of parchment, tied to tiny jars with thread. One mix claims to soothe unruly spirits and co-wives. Another promises the shine of river fish and the memory of camels. Translation may be fuzzy, but the marketing game? Eternal. Here's a fun tidbit. Some traders intentionally added exotic-sounding ingredients, desert root, cloud saffron, or gin's bone, which were often just common herbs under dramatic names. It was all part of the mystique. And if you believe your hair would glisten like moonlight because of one spoonful of midnight oil, well, that belief did half the work. You lean toward a small gathering of women kneeling in a circle. They're sampling a new vendor's wares, a greenish oil with notes of eucalyptus and something sharp, maybe crushed mango seed. One woman massages a drop into her temples and sighs so deeply you nearly do it with her. This, she says, will survive the dry season. And that's the thing, Mali's climate was no joke. The sun could bake the earth until it cracked like clay pottery. Hair dried out fast. Skin blistered. These oils weren't just indulgence. They were armor. In fact, there's a theory floating around that some oils developed specifically in response to the arid environment, fine-tuned over generations. For example, a blend of baobab oil, shea, and burnt fig resin was said to lock in moisture for a fortnight, even in dust storms. Scientists today would call that impressive emollient behavior. Back then, it was just good grandma advice. Over by the tannery wall, you spot a different kind of vendor, a man selling oils used primarily for rituals. His blends are darker, sometimes gritty, often infused with smoke. You inhale and catch musk, ash, and pepper. These aren't for daily grooming. These are for weddings, births, and yes, burials. A jar of closing oil is tightly sealed with beeswax. The man explains that it's only open when preparing the dead. For hair, always, even in the afterlife, presentation matters. You wander toward the salt slabs stacked like fallen tombstones. Another vendor is mixing salt into oil, creating a kind of scalp scrub. It's said to draw out heat, balance your spirit, and in some fringe beliefs, keep your dreams from being stolen. That last part? Not sure what it means. But you suddenly find yourself holding a little jar, just in case. You overhear an argument. Two aunties bickering over whether leckety bark is better than bassy root for strengthening hair. They agree on one thing. Don't trust any oil that smells like cassava. That's for feet. The smell of the market deepens as the sun rises higher. Fried millet, goat stew, smoke, sweat, and jasmine oil thicken the air. It's a whole perfume of daily life, and you're walking through it like a sponge. One final stop, a quiet corner where a young girl grinds seeds on a flat stone. She's barely 10, but her hands move like they've done this forever. Her mother leans over, whispering ingredients like a spell. Shea, mint, ground kola nut, lion grass. The girl nods solemnly. You're witnessing something ancient and very much alive. As you head back toward the central fountain, clutching your imaginary pouch of sacred grease, you realize that the market wasn't just for trade. It was a classroom, a lab, and a stage all at once, where oils weren't bought so much as passed between hands, tested, questioned, improved. And in that sense, you didn't just walk through commerce. You walked through chemistry, through memory, through legacy in liquid form. You're back on the quiet edge of the city now, just as the haze of late afternoon softens the rooftops of Niani into smudges of gold and dust. Somewhere a lute plucks lazily and a woman's voice rises, not in song, but in firm instruction. Something about too tight a twist means no suitors. You're standing just outside a shaded courtyard where a small crowd gathers, waiting their turn at the braid mat. It's here you start to understand. Hair, in the Mali Empire, wasn't just a parview. It was a billboard, a canvas, a living resume of family, wealth, faith, and whether or not you were having a very good week. You crouch beside a low stone basin filled with warm oil steeped in lemongrass and powdered sandalwood. A young woman, maybe 17, dips her fingers in and rubs it briskly between her palms before threading them into the hair of the girl in front of her. Her hands move like water. Pull, separate, smooth, twist. Each lock is oil before it's styled, as if sealing a small promise. The air smells like wood smoke, salt, and something floral that flutters just behind the rest. Maybe it's hibiscus oil. Or maybe it's just the smell of a good secret being passed down. Hairstyles in Mali weren't arbitrary. They were deliberate, almost coded. High buns wrapped in indigo scarves might mean you're recently married. Intricate side twists? Possibly a noble's daughter. A middle-parted coil with a dyed tip? You're showing piety or mourning or just following the regional trend. Historians still argue whether certain styles were strictly status-driven or had deeper clan associations. Either way, a bad hair day in the Mali Empire could be a diplomatic incident. Hair was also scented intentionally. You watch a woman sprinkle what looks like dried jasmine petals into a warm bowl of oil, then crush them with the back of a carved spoon. The mixture will be massaged into the scalp, meant to leave a gentle trail of fragrance as she walks. One friend jokes it's her walking blessing, but you suspect there's more to it. After all, in Mali, smell was reputation. Enter a room with the wrong scent, and you might not be invited back. That's probably why elite women had entire scent wardrobes. Different oils for different occasions. A diplomatic visit might call for camphor and bitter orange. A wedding, coconut and cloves. A casual visit to your frenemy's garden? Go full saffron and dare them to keep up. You hear a quiet debate under the shade of a baobab tree. Two women discussing the merits of storing oil in leather versus ceramic. Leather breathes. One insists, but ceramic cools. The other counters. A third woman walks by with a glass vial tucked into her hair wrap like a statement piece. Glass was imported, rare and fragile. Clearly, she's not here to argue. She's here to shimmer. Nearby, a small girl cries as her aunt begins sectioning her hair. But the tears stop when the oil hits. A blend of shea, mint, and eucalyptus. It soothes the scalp and cools the skin. This, her aunt whispers, is a sleep blend. It's meant to calm, encourage growth, and maybe, just maybe, help the child remember her dreams. Whether that a bedtime myth or a side effect of mint oil is unclear. Still, it's adorable. And the girl, already half asleep. Men also had their own hair rituals. A few gather near a wooden bench, each holding a jar. Their oils tend toward darker scents, frankincense, ash, ground cola. One man boasts his blend is based on a recipe from the emperor's own court barber. It includes burnt lion tail and powdered baobab seed, probably embellished. But his beard does look excellent. You overhear someone joke, if he oiled his character like he oils that beard, he'd be a sultan by now. The room doesn't laugh, but there's definitely a snort. Interestingly, head wraps often serve double duty, not just style, but also scent control. Oils could be strong, and not everyone wanted to smell like spicy mint at the fish market. Women folded cotton wrap strategically, allowing just enough fragrance to escape without overwhelming. It was, in a way, the empire's earliest version of personal scent branding. One older woman lifts the hem of her wrap to show an inner pocket, a place where she keeps a tiny dab of concentrated camphor oil. For bad days, she explains, or boring men. You wonder if there's a difference. And yes, there were social rules. No one just showed up to court with dusty hair and yesterday's oil. The richer the oil, the more prestige. Some nobles even paid scent scribes, yes, that was a thing, who customized fragrance blends based on astrology, family history, or recent gossip. But here's the thing. Scent and status weren't just about showing off. They were forms of nonverbal negotiation. Imagine walking into a tense negotiation, your hair subtly glistening with peace oil, a soft blend of lavender, fig, and ground pearl. It's like saying, I come in peace, without uttering a word. Or attending a funeral with hair oiled in myrrh and black sesame, a silent sign of grief. Historians debate whether these scent codes were universally understood or mostly limited to the elite. There's little written record. But griots, those walking libraries of the empire, recited poems that included detailed hair descriptions. She wore the scent of river lilies in grief. One line went, another reference, a warrior with hair that smelled of thunder. Interpret that how you will. As the sun dips low, a soft humming begins. Someone is finishing a style with gentle palm strokes, sealing in oil, love, and perhaps a quiet prayer. This isn't just hair care. It's memory in motion. Ritual in every twist. And you're starting to recognize the rhythm of it all. The oiling, the scenting, the wrapping, like notes in a sleepy song, repeated again and again across generations. You inhale one last time lemongrass, clove, charcoal, and file it away somewhere deep in the scent archive of your dreams. You're lingering now on the fringes of the city, where manicured courtyards begin to give way to dense groves and quiet, sacred spaces. The hush out here is an absence. It's anticipation. Even the birds seem to hold their breath. You follow a narrow footpath lined with clay pots, half buried in the soil, their necks tied shut with twisted bark cords. They're not trash, you realize. They're steeping, and they're full of oil. Out here is where the magic happens, or at least the part that doesn't need witnesses. These are the infusion gardens, tended mostly by older women and the occasional healer. The process is part chemistry, part superstition, and part straight-up gossip. You hear one woman mutter that her neighbor's oil lost its strength after she caught her son sneaking gulps from the pot. A horrifying image. But hey, kids do weird things. You pause beside a low hut with smoke trailing lazily from the roof. Inside, 3 women are roasting seeds on a flat iron plate, turning them with long carved sticks. The smell is hypnotic, nutty, sharp, a little sweet. These are morina seeds, prized for cleansing oil. They'll be cooled, pounded, and pressed using a heavy stone weight system that looks like it could also be used to break knees. Efficient. One woman dips a corner of her wrap in the cooled oil and dabs it behind her ears. For good judgment, she says, and marriage negotiations. You smile. It's hard to tell which she values more. You move along the edge of the grove where tree bark hangs drying in strips like laundry. Acacia, tamarind, shea, and something a bit less recognizable, twisted bark with a strange crimson hue. A man explains that it's undead wood, found only on trees struck by lightning. Its oil is never applied directly, but used to scare away clinging thoughts. Maybe that's his way of describing insomnia. If so, you might want a bottle. Historians still argue whether this outer layer of oil production was linked to religious rites or simply rural ingenuity. But the placement of the pots, always near trees, never in straight lines, and sometimes half buried, suggests more than practical storage. There's ritual here, a logic passed by whispers, not scrolls. You crouch to peer into one pot. The oil inside is greenish and thick, with a bundle of herbs floating just beneath the surface. It's marked with a single fingerprint pressed into the clay. No label, no fancy stopper. Just one identity, one recipe, one story. Another pot nearby has black seeds at the bottom, probably near seeds, infused into a base of tamarind and fig oil. This blend, your guide mutters, is for the ears of liars. You can't decide if it's to make people more honest or more gullible. Possibly both. An older woman beckons you over with a crooked finger. She stirs her oil with a bone-handled stick and lets you smell it. It hits you like steam, eucalyptus, camphor, and something almost metallic. This one, she says, is for warriors. You nod respectfully, then step back. You're not fighting anything but a pillow tonight. Nearby, a young apprentice is tying colored threads around glass vials. Each color means something. Red for strength, yellow for clarity, blue for forgiveness. A fringe belief, maybe, but the symbolism is beautiful. You watch as he lines up the finished bottles on a wooden shelf shaped like a crescent moon. They're offered to travelers, healers, and occasionally politicians. You resist the urge to ask what color thread politicians get. You overhear a whispered conversation between two sisters-in-law. One believes oil is a gift from the gods. The other says it's just crushed nuts with a good PR team. They both laugh. But later, you notice they each carry a small pouch tied discreetly to their waist, and you bet they both check on it before stepping into any crowded space. And then there's the storage rituals. Some oils must be kept in shade. Others demand full sun for 3 days, followed by 2 days in total darkness. One blend is stored in a hollowed-out gourd placed under the pillow of a person you trust, which opens a whole different philosophical dilemma, doesn't it? You come to a low table where glass shards and stone bowls lie scattered. A man is etching symbols into the bottom of a new bottle. To trap the memory, he explains. You're not sure if he means the person using the oil or the plants themselves. Either way, it feels personal, intimate. One blend, he says, was designed for pregnant women, full of myrrh, fig seed, and baobab oil, said to protect not just the mother's hair, but her mind. It calms the river, he adds cryptically, tapping his temple. A soothing idea. You imagine the scent sinking into someone's thoughts like warm bath water. Not all oils here are serious. You pass a boy peddling what he calls thief oil. Rub it on your doors, and no one will steal from you. He says it with a wink, and his older sister rolls her eyes so hard she almost levitates. Still, you buy a drop, just in case. Here in the infusion gardens, nothing moves quickly. Everything seeps, simmers, waits. Oils are pressed slowly, like thoughts formed over tea. The air itself seems steeped in patience. A rooster crows somewhere. Distant, late, probably confused. Or maybe he's warning the sun that dreamers like you are still awake. You sit in the shade of a fig tree, the bark warm against your back, the ground soft with mulch and petals. The scent around you is dizzy in the best way. Earth, fruit, spice, and the ever-present hum of something cooking, something healing. You close your eyes and breathe in deeply, as if trying to oil your own mind, smooth out the wrinkles of the day, silence the creaks in your thoughts. And as twilight slips closer, you start to think, Maybe there really is such a thing as sleep oil. And if there isn't, well, someone should invent it, preferably before morning. The city is quieter now, humming with the lull between dusk and nightfall, and you find yourself back among the rooftops in the Annie, where firelight flickers through wooden shutters and stories pour like syrup from every home. The scent of hair oil still lingers on your fingers, nutty, spiced, and a little sweet, and it mingles with the smell of roasted yams and slowly burning incense as you walk past low-lit thresholds. Tonight is a hair ceremony night. You didn't know that when you set out, but you hear the drumming before you see the gathering, soft and rhythmic, like a heartbeat through thick velvet. At first, it seems like just another evening celebration. Molly's good at those. But then you notice the braided crowns, the lines of oil jars lined up like chess pieces, and the cluster of mothers whispering to daughters who are still too young to understand the weight of what's about to happen. You sit near the edge of a gathering circle, blending into shadows, unnoticed but not unwelcome. In the center stands an elder, her braid coiled into a perfect disc atop her head, glinting with a sheen that says top shelf oil only. Her wrap is thick with the scent of clove and burnt orange peel. She doesn't speak. She just lifts a hand, and everything falls silent. Tonight, a girl is becoming a woman, not through blood or marriage, but through oil. You watch as a girl kneels before the elder, her hair freshly washed and combed straight back. A shallow bowl of thick, golden oil rests beside her. The elder dips her fingers in and begins to work it in slowly, not speaking, not rushing. Each stroke is symbolic, a kind of tactile prayer. One passed to welcome wisdom, another for resilience, a third for, well, something unspoken, maybe dreams. This part is real. Historians know that ceremonial hair oilings mark transitions in life: birth, marriage, motherhood, widowhood. What they argue over is how formal these ceremonies were. Were they sacred rites or intimate traditions passed through families? There's no imperial handbook, no golden plaque listing the steps, just oral memory and oil. As the elder continues, a second woman begins to sing, low at first, like a hum you feel in your ribs. Others join. The rhythm isn't fast. It's steady, like combing, like breathing. The lyrics mention the river, a mango tree, the softness of wool, and the endurance of stone. Strange companions, until you realize they're metaphors for the girl herself, or what she's becoming. You notice something odd. The oil in the elder's bowl has changed color. Not a trick of the light, but a shift in hue, deepening to bronze. No one else seems surprised. You glance around, waiting for someone to whisper alchemy, or maybe oversteeped morina. But instead they nod, like the oil knows what it's doing. A small side debate is brewing near you between two young men. One swears that the bronze effect comes only from oils infused with river mud. The other says it's because the elder blessed it with words under her breath. They both agree you shouldn't ever use it if you're angry. It locks the wrong things in. You catch a third man rubbing his scalp and muttering that his oil traps all the stupid thoughts. Judging by his face, it might be working or not. Back at the ceremony, the elder finishes and lifts a silk cloth to gently wrap the girl's head. No pins, no knots, just gravity and grace. The oil is left to sink in overnight, uninterrupted. The girl bows. The singing stops. And then the drumming begins again, faster now, celebratory. Everyone around you begins dabbing oil on their own scalps, wrists, and temples. Some carry small bottles tied with beads and charms. One woman tips hers and adds a drop to the base of her neck, whispering, "May my words stick sweetly." A man next to her follows suit, muttering, "May I stop saying the wrong thing to my mother-in-law." Universal struggles. And here's something fascinating. The types of oil used in these ceremonies often depended on lineage. Some clans preferred darker oils, aged shea, black seed, even tamarind resin, while others leaned toward lighter, floral blends like jasmine and millet milk. The oil carried ancestral identity, and changing your blend was borderline scandalous, like showing up to a family reunion, wearing your rival's colors. That said, some daring souls did experiment. There's one tale, probably exaggerated, of a merchant's daughter who blended 7 oils from rival clans into one potion and wore it to a court function. Supposedly, her hair glowed so brightly she had to walk with a veil for a week. Some say she sparked a trade war. Others say she just had excellent taste. One older man leans close to you now and shares his secret recipe. A blend of shea, fig, and a whisper of smoke from burnt love letters. You blink. He smiles. Softer than forgiveness, he says. You don't ask questions. Hair oils weren't just used during ceremonies. They were also part of everyday protection. Mothers often oiled their children's scalps before travel, blessing them with safe passage. One popular blend, ground kola nut and honeyed sesame, was thought to prevent misfortune and gossip, whether or not it worked. It certainly smelled better than paranoia. And for travelers, oils serve as calling cards. You might meet someone at a market and weeks later recognize them again, not by their face, but by the scent that lingered on their braid. Oh, you're the one who smelled like rain and ambition. A surprisingly specific compliment. As the ceremony ends and the crowd drifts apart, you find yourself lingering near the elder's stool. She hasn't moved much since the beginning, but now she tilts her head, just slightly, and gestures for you to come closer. Without a word, she dips her fingers into the bowl, now mostly empty, and touches them lightly to your forehead. There's no tingling, no lightning, just warmth, and the faint scent of sandalwood and fig. You feel quiet. Later, you walk away through darkened streets where the only sound is your own footsteps. The air is cooler now, and you notice that your scalp feels a little tingly, like the memory of a breeze, or a song that's still echoing in a room you've just left. You don't know what kind of oil she used, but somehow it feels like something settled in you, like maybe your thoughts have been gently combed into place. You wake, or maybe you never fully fell asleep, in the soft gray hours before sunrise, when the sky is all hush and maybe. There's a lightness in your limbs, as if the oil from last night seeped not just into your skin but your sleep, tugging your thoughts into neat braids. You find yourself walking again past the cooling embers of cooking fires, toward the outer edges of the market quarter. But this is no ordinary market. This is a section whispered about, the one that doesn't always appear in maps or memory. A side street bazaar of fixers, barterers, and people who believe that hair oils can win wars and rewrite destinies. You're in the merchant alley of oils. It's smaller than you expect. Just a few stalls clustered beneath faded awnings stitched with old family crests and obscure prayers. The smell here is richer, darker, like someone melted 1,000 spice racks and added secrets. You're hit with cinnamon, burnt shea, licorice root, and a thick bass note that's hard to place. Almost metallic, like smooth bronze. A man with no eyebrows waves you over. His head is shaved smooth and gleaming. No oil can tame me, he says proudly. His table is lined with vials corked with feathers, bone, and in one case, what appears to be a beetle glued to a stopper. Bold aesthetic. He lifts a bottle and taps the glass. This one's for speaking in court without trembling. Another, this one helps you remember things you swore you forgot. He says it with a wink. You nod slowly but back away politely. You're still figuring out how much reality you're ready for before breakfast. The next stall is run by an old woman in a faded crimson robe. Her oils are arranged in a spiral that coils inward like a galaxy or a snail shell. Smell counterclockwise, she instructs, and you obey. The scents shift as you follow the path. First lemon, then jasmine, then something sharp and smoky. When you finish the loop, she says, you've just walked through a grief ritual. You weren't expecting that, but it fits. She tells you the spiral blend is based on a funerary oil from the early Queda dynasty, meant to soothe the body before burial and ease its exit from the world. It's still used, though now more as an emotional balm. For heartbreak, she shrugs, or when your goat runs away. You're not sure which is worse. You reach a stall guarded by a parrot. A real one. Its feathers are flecked with oil, and it smells better than most people. The merchant here specializes in emotional camouflage. His oils are meant to mask not just scent, but mood. Feeling anxious? Use the calm rain blend. Angry? A dab of cool ember on your temples. According to him, Royal envoys never traveled without these blends, especially when negotiating peace after someone's army accidentally marched through the wrong border. Historians still argue whether these merchant blends were ever sanctioned by the empire or if they were entirely underground, a folk science of sorts. Some records suggest that jars of court oils were passed along diplomatic routes, wrapped in silk and sealed with wax symbols. Others believe those were just elaborate perfume gifts. But deep inside these stalls, the difference between politics and potion feels porous. A boy runs past you carrying a bottle nearly as tall as his head. It's sloshing slightly, the color a deep maroon. The merchant yells after him, "Tell your uncle he still owes me the goat." You're starting to suspect goats were a major part of the economy and the gossip network. At the far end of the alley is the rarest table of all, a traveling alchemist cart. He's not from Niani. His accent is strange, his robes foreign, stitched with patterns you don't recognize. But the bottles, oh, the bottles. Some look like molten glass frozen mid-pour. Others are shaped like stars or teardrops. One glows faintly, not metaphorically, actually glows. You point and he grins. Ah, the dream root extract. Only use on nights you want answers. Then, lowering his voice, it might give you questions instead. Helpful, he offers a tester. You smell it cautiously. It's indescribable. A bit like snowfall, a bit like baked earth, and something else entirely, like the sound of someone calling your name just before you wake. You step back, a little dizzy. He chuckles. Strong, isn't it? From the outer provinces. They say if you rub it into your scalp and fall asleep, your dreams walk backwards. You're not sure if that's poetic or terrifying. Here in the merchant alley, the oils aren't just tools. They're identities. Each vendor guards a recipe like a child, and yet they all borrow from one another. There's a sense of competition, yes, but also deep, fragrant respect, like jazz musicians trading solos, or witches showing off new spell formats. You spot one last stall run by twin sisters. They offer mirror oils, meant to enhance reflection, in both senses. Rub it in, and your thoughts become clearer. Rub it on a literal mirror, and, well, they won't tell you, only that you should try it at night and be emotionally hydrated, whatever that means. They hand you a small jar, unasked. It's warm to the touch. The oil inside is pale gold and smells faintly of nutmeg, ink, and old letters. You tuck it into your satchel. For later, maybe for when you need to remember something that hasn't happened yet. As the sun begins to stretch its arms over the city walls, the vendors start packing up. Oil bottles disappear into cloth wraps, into baskets, into coat sleeves. The parrot coughs once, dramatically, and then falls asleep, a very specific bird. You take one last breath of the alley, layers of scent woven through steam, wood, dust, and thought, and walk away slowly, the warmth of strange oil still pressing gently against your ribs. You don't know what any of it means. You just know you feel softened, the way a page feels after it's been written on, or a muscle just after it stops hurting. There's something about the way early light slants through baobab branches that makes the world feel heavy and gentle at the same time. You follow it through narrow paths, past painted walls and thickets of hibiscus, until the city begins to thin. Niani is still there. Its rhythm, its heat. But now you're stepping into a slower chapter of the story. The countryside. You're headed toward the hair gardens. Yes, that's exactly what they're called. Fields and clusters of plants grown not for food or flowers, but for their oil-rich seeds, roots, and leaves. The Empire's best hair oils didn't just materialize out of clever jars and poetic merchants. They grew, carefully, deliberately, and sometimes with a little singing, under the sun. The first thing you notice in the gardens is how quiet they are. Not silent, but purposeful. Bees hum like tiny monks. Wind passes over leaves with a lazy shiver. And every so often, a gardener murmurs to a tree as though discussing its feelings. You catch a few snippets, compliments, weather updates, one low argument over whether the rainfall has been emotionally consistent. The hair gardens were no joke. They were part science lab, part sacred grove, and part social battleground. Plots were often family-owned and passed down through generations. Some families specialize in a single plant, like the shade tree, refusing to grow anything else. Others dabbled in diversity. Baobab, morina, tamarind, and even lesser-known oil producers like lulu nuts and fermented papaya skin. Each plant had its quirks. Shade trees took decades to mature, but their butter was prized for its silky finish. Morina grew fast and wild, and its oil was light, perfect for hot months. Baobab gave oil that was cooling and rich, though historians still argue whether it was ever truly popular among court elites or if it remained a more regional favorite. The debate is surprisingly heated for something that smells like sun-warmed almonds. You crouch beside a shade grove now, watching a young girl collect fallen nuts in a basket shaped like a smile. She hums as she works, her song looping in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. You can't understand the words, but the tempo tells you everything. This is patient work, rhythmic work, a kind of low-stakes magic. Nearby, two older women are pressing oil from roasted seeds. They do it by hand, kneading the paste in wide clay bowls until golden liquid rises and separates. They skim it off with leaves and pour it into gourds to settle. It's meditative, almost devotional. One of them pauses to pop a roasted seed into her mouth. You can eat them, too, she says, but then your breath smells like ambition. You ask how they know which oils to combine. They look at each other and laugh. We listen, one says, to the hair. It tells us. You're not sure if she's being literal. You decide not to ask. The gardens also serve as a kind of social glue. Young couples walk here on quiet afternoons, pretending not to glance at each other. Midwives gather certain herbs from the far edges to make oils for mothers-to-be. One stretch of land is known as a widow's row, filled with blue flowering plants whose oils were thought to protect memory and soften grief. You pass a small plot where the soil is unusually dark, almost black. The gardener here wears gloves and speaks little. You learn later that the plants grown in this corner are infused with ash from sacred fires, believed to give the oils an echo effect, meaning whatever you're feeling when you apply them, the oil amplifies for days. Apply while angry, expect tension. Apply while joyful, you may find yourself grinning at puddles. This echo effect is one of the great mysteries of Mali oilcraft. Historians debate whether it's psychological suggestion, chemical reaction, or just superstition. But even skeptics admit people acted differently after using those blends. One scribe reportedly wrote a week's worth of love letters to a water jug after misusing an amplified tamarind infusion. Not all garden oils were for hair, of course. Some were for the scalp, others for ceremonial masks, still others for writing. Yes, writing. Oil-mixed inks were used on parchment, and even on skin for temporary tattoos. There's mention of one wandering poet who composed entire epics in scented ink and insisted you had to smell the page to understand the story. The nose is wiser than the eyes, he said. No one invited him to game nights. You reach a long terrace where dried petals are laid out on mats, hibiscus, rose, jasmine, even orange blossoms. These aren't just pretty. When crushed and steeped in warmed oil, they infuse fragrance and intent. There's one blend, hibiscus and fennel seed, known as the lover's mistake. Why? Because it smells so good that many wore it too early in a relationship and ended up regretting it. Too much romance, not enough context. As one elderly gardener puts it, there's a calm here. The kind of calm that doesn't shout or sell, just grows. Steady. When a breeze moves through the leaves, it doesn't feel like air. It feels like pages turning. A young apprentice offers you a sample of freshly pressed oil. It's thick and warm, with a scent that hovers between toasted almond and fresh-cut grass. She says it's a new blend, still unnamed. You can name it if you want, she offers shyly. You think for a moment, then say, Chapter 1. She smiles and nods. Yes, that fits. You leave the gardens feeling rooted. Not just literally, though you probably got bits of seed in your sandals, but emotionally, too. There's something about seeing where things begin. The oils, the ceremonies, the rituals, all of it starts in dirt, in sunlight, in patient hands and passing songs. And tonight, when you rub a few drops into your scalp, you'll remember this. Not in a flashy way, just a quiet knowing that your hair carries not just style or scent, but stories. And soil. You find yourself drifting again, not so much walking now as gliding, the way one does in dreams or in stories told by grandmothers at dusk, when the world is 3 shades softer. The path leads away from the gardens down into cooler air, where the scent of earth sharpens and the trees leaning close, as though about to share a secret. You're heading into the archives, not of paper, but of heads. Because here's something people rarely think about. In the Mali Empire, history wasn't just written, it was worn. You arrive at a courtyard where older women sit in a wide circle, their hair arranged in breathtaking towers, loops, braids, and shapes that could double as architectural blueprints. Their styles aren't just decoration, they're records. Hair is a document, as a scroll of the body. One woman has a crest of braids spiraling into a center knot. Another's are looped behind her ears like nested parentheses. These aren't random designs. Each pattern marks a story. Tribe, lineage, marriage status, profession, even recent dreams. If you had a weird prophetic nightmare involving a flaming hippo, chances are you'd end up with a little oil slick braid tucked behind your ear as a nod to it. Never anger a dream animal, they say. Probably wise. The oils come in here like ink to parchment. Each hairstyle is sealed, massaged, and accented with oils, some for scent, some for shine, and others for meaning. A certain blend might signal mourning. Another might suggest fertility. One notorious style, the copper wave, was said to announce that the wearer had broken off an engagement and wasn't sorry. At all. A teenage girl sits with her head in her aunt's lap, eyes closed while the elder oils her scalp with fingers like poetry. The oil glistens in the sun, catching flecks of copper, cardamom, and what smells faintly like roasted date. This is for beginnings, the aunt says softly. New work. New courage. The girl smiles faintly, even though she doesn't open her eyes. The courtyard isn't all solemnity, though. Laughter breaks through often. One woman tells a story about slipping on a gourd and ruining her entire braid set an hour before a wedding. Had to improvise, she says, lifting a scarred but proud coil of hair. I invented the panic loop. Everyone laughs. She's sort of a hero now. Historians still argue whether these oil-coated hairstyles were universally understood across the empire, or if they were more localized, developed region by region, clan by clan. Some scholars believe there was a semi-official hair dialect, with recurring motifs and meanings. Others suggest it was more like a living language, shifting constantly, reinterpreted by each generation. You like that idea better. Hair that evolves like slang, like music. You spot a few men in the corner of the courtyard, seated more stiffly. Their hair is shorter, some cropped close, others twisted or braided in patterns that hug the scalp. They, too, are being oiled, though with slightly different blends. Thinner oils, stronger scents. A man with a thick beard explains that his mix includes clove and ginger for sharpness. He taps his temple. Not just looks, memory, too. You ask whether there are oils for bad memories, something to help forget. A woman overhears you and shakes her head. You don't forget, you oil it differently. She pulls a tiny jar from her sash. Lavender and burnt sugar, not to erase, but to soften the corners. Some oils in this courtyard are legacy oils, passed down like heirlooms. A certain blend might only be made once every 5 years, requiring ingredients from 3 provinces and a period of fasting before preparation. They're stored in carved wooden boxes and only used for moments of deep meaning. Birth ceremonies, naming rituals, farewells to elders. The scent alone can cause someone to cry without knowing why. You watch as a young boy is anointed with a special oil before his first journey away from home. His mother smooths it into his curls with slow, even pressure. It's a blend called Windsafe, designed to protect travelers. No one knows exactly what's in it, but it smells like pine smoke and old promises. The thing is, oil doesn't just sit on the surface. It sinks into skin, into scalp, into story. In this courtyard, everyone carries a kind of quiet history on their heads, scented, styled, and sacred. One elder, nearly blind, offers to feel your head, just to guess your past, she jokes. You kneel. Her fingers move like old water. She says, you've carried more worry than you needed, but you're shedding it. You're learning softness. Then she chuckles. Also, you skipped a lot of sleep recently. Naughty. You can't argue. As the afternoon light softens, someone brings out tea. The courtyard sips and gossips, and someone starts braiding again, this time with decorative thread. A tiny child helps rub oil into the ends, her hands clumsy but full of pride. She sings a little oiling song under her breath. You don't catch all the words, but it ends with, "So the story stays." There's something beautiful in that. Oil's not just as adornment, but as glue, as memory, as the thing that helps a style and the person beneath it hold together through change, through time, through wind and mistakes and morning mirrors. As you prepare to leave, a woman offers you a final dab of oil. "For dreams," she says, "but the kind you chase with your eyes open. It smells like lemon cedar and something soft and green, like early hope." You tuck it behind your ear. You're moving now through alleys dipped in shadow, where stone walls press close and the smells shift. Less floral, more firewood and fermented grain. This part of the city doesn't sing like the courtyards. It mutters in a dozen dialects. You've entered the trade quarter. This is where the oils of the Mali Empire became currency, gossip, and diplomatic leverage. Packaged, bartered, and whispered about like secret recipes passed under tables. It's louder here. Someone shouts about roasted peanuts. Another waves a sandal and demands a refund. A goat walks by wearing a necklace. You blink. No one else finds it odd. In this tightly woven chaos, you come to the market stalls devoted entirely to hair oils, bottled in gourds, horn, glass, and ceramic. Some are stacked in pyramids, labeled with soot-written names like Lion's Calm, River's Cunning, and Mother Knows. Others sit unmarked, mysterious, practically humming with quiet potency. A vendor waves you over, beckoning with a long, oil-darkened hand. He smells like nutmeg and sawdust. "Try this," he says, holding up a pale golden liquid in a tiny vial, used by the wives of generals. Smells like peace treaties and mild threats. You can't tell if he's joking. Trade was the lifeblood of the empire, and hair oils, alongside salt, gold, and textiles, were more than vanity items. They were negotiators, diplomats, bribes, and elegant packaging. One famous emissary supposedly settled a regional dispute with nothing more than a carved box of rare hair balm and a very pointed wink. Historians still argue whether that story is true, or it was a cleverly inflated legend told by merchants to boost prices. Oils from Mali didn't just stay in Mali. Camel caravans loaded them by the crate, padding between kegs of shea and gourds of baobab extract with silks and bundles of frankincense. From the coast of modern-day Senegal to the markets of Cairo, Mali oils became status items. A whiff of one could suggest nobility, mysticism, or dangerously high standards. A woman at a booth explains how oils were once given as dowries, whole collections built around a theme. She opened a chest and shows you a rain bride set oils for stormy days, damp hair, and emotional resilience. Each vial has a feather tucked inside. Symbolic, she says, so the bride remembers to bend, not break. In the next stall over, an elderly man is selling what he calls ghost oils. These are blends no longer made, recipes lost or outlawed. One vial is labeled simply, "Don't use on Tuesdays." Another bears a symbol that looks suspiciously like a grumpy chicken. This one, he whispers, was made from a flower that no longer grows. Some say the scent caused very vivid dreams. You ask how he still has it. He winks. Old traders never empty their bags. Some of these oils were dangerous in the wrong hands. Or heads. One concoction, spiced tamarind, crushed acacia, and something ominously called night gum, was said to grant uncanny charm, but only if the user never lied while wearing it. Those who did reportedly suffered from spontaneous nosebleeds or deeply awkward family reunions. You wander deeper into market, where the goods get rarer and the stories weirder. There's a woman with a single bottle displayed under silk netting. The sign reads, whispers the hair. She claims it strengthens your strands and your self-esteem. My ex came back after I used it. She says flatly, I sent him away again. But still, powerful stuff. Another stall sells story oils, which must be applied while telling a true tale. The vendor insists the oil won't absorb unless the story is worth hearing. It's not about truth, she clarifies. It's about resonance. You ask what happens if you lie. She leans close. Your scalp knows. Here in the trade quarter, oil isn't a luxury, it's language. A merchant might insult your intelligence and flatter your ancestors in the same sentence, all while anointing your palm with a tester blend called Diplomat's Elbow. People pass tiny vials as gifts, as challenges, as memory tokens. The way others might press a coin into a palm. Here's a drop of sandalwood and jasmine concentrate, slipped behind an ear with the words, "So you don't forget me." One record, scribbled in a ledger full of trade agreements, notes that a single bottle of sacred oil once bought safe passage for 200 men across enemy land. Another source claims that a minor prince once lost his claim to a town because he spilled an entire court oil offering down the back of his tunic. Too slick to lead, the scribes wrote. Brutal. Even oil packaging became an art form. Some containers are shaped like birds, others like tiny elephants. Gourd flasks bear painted proverbs. You find one that reads, "What softens hair also softens hearts." Another says, "Never trust an oil you wouldn't drink." Tempting, but probably terrible advice. At the edge of the market, a young boy runs past, clutching a bottle nearly his size. He's grinning wildly. You catch the vendor shouting after him, not in anger, but amusement. He thinks it makes him invisible, she explains. It's just lemongrass and hope. By now, your senses are overloaded. Everything smells like something. Your fingers glisten faintly. Even your thoughts feel slightly scented. A vendor hands you a final sample, unmarked, mysterious. You ask what it's for. To carry with you, he says simply, in case you ever forget that your story is rare. You tuck the vial into your sleeve. The weight is almost nothing. But the meaning? Heavy, real. As you leave the trade quarter, the air opens up again. Wider sky, less noise. But part of you stays behind, still turning over the strange, fragrant transactions of that world. Still hearing the whispered question, what is it worth, this oil of yours? This scent, this history, this signal of who you are? Maybe more than anyone realizes. The evening comes on slow, the sun dipping low enough to paint the city's mud brick walls in molten gold. You walk through a quieter neighborhood now, past small homes where lamps flicker to life, casting pools of soft amber light. The scent of cooking fires mingles with faint traces of oil from earlier in the day, as if the entire city still wears a memory of those hair gardens and market stalls on its skin. You're heading to a place that few visitors ever see, the sacred chambers where hair oils were consecrated and prepared, not just as products, but as offerings to spirits, ancestors, and the divine. The chamber's entrance is simple, almost unassuming, a low archway framed by woven reeds and colorful cloth strips. Inside, the air is heavy with incense and the faint, almost imperceptible hum of chanting. The walls are lined with shelves bearing jars and vials of all sizes, each labeled with carefully handwritten names and symbols. You notice the soft glow of lanterns, their light reflecting off the polished surfaces of mixing bowls and mortar and pestle sets made from local stone. This isn't a marketplace or a garden. It's a workshop of ritual, a temple of scent and meaning. An elderly priestess greets you. Her eyes shine with quiet intensity, and her hands are steady and sure. She explains that every oil prepared here must undergo a blessing, a sequence of prayers, and the addition of spirit ingredients. These might include rare herbs, crushed gemstones, or even a whisper of river water collected at dawn. Historians still argue about how much of these rituals were purely spiritual and how much served practical purposes like preservation or enhancing scent. Some scholars suggest the chants alter the chemistry of the oils, while others see them as psychological tools to strengthen the user's connection to the oil's meaning. You watch as the priestess mixes a small batch of oil. Its base a rich shea butter blended with fragrant morina and the faintest hint of frankincense. She dips a feather into the mixture and gently waves in the air, murmuring invocations. You can almost feel the oil pulse with something beyond mere chemistry. She hands you a tiny vial, saying softly, "This is ancestral grace. It's for those who seek guidance when the path seems lost." The chamber also preserves older recipes, some of which have been lost in the wider world. There's a jar labeled Knight's Veil, said to protect wearers from evil spirits and bad dreams. Another, sun's kiss, is rumored to bring vitality and strength to the scalp, especially after illness. You learn that the ritual preparation was crucial, for oils used in ceremonies had to be alive in a sense, imbued with intention and spirit. Without these rites, the oils were just, well, oil. But with them, they became conduits, bridges between the earthly and the divine. In one corner, you glimpse a worn notebook filled with sketches of plants and notes on their spiritual properties. The margins are scrawled with poetic observations. The baobab holds the patience of centuries. Morina whispers courage to the timid. Tamarind burns with the fire of truth. The priestess invites you to participate in a simple ritual. You dip your fingers into the ancestral grace oil and rub it slowly into your palms, inhaling its warm, resinous scent. Then, together, you place your hands over your heart and bow your head. The sound of the chants fills the room, steady and calming. You feel a warm spread, not just physical, but something more elusive, a sense of connection, of history wrapping around you like a soft cloak. Before you leave, the priestess presses a small bundle of dried herbs into your palm. For your journey, she says, remember, oils are stories, but stories live best when shared. Outside, the night is deep and calm. Stars glitter overhead like scattered oil droplets caught in light. You tuck the herbs and the vial carefully into your bag. Walking away, you realize that these sacred chambers are more than places of preparation. They are the heartbeat of the Empire's relationship with hair oils, a sacred trust passed down through generations, blending faith, art, and science in a fragrant dance. And tonight, as you settle in, the oils you carry are more than just scents. They are echoes of a world that cared deeply for every strand, every story, and every silent prayer whispered beneath the baobab shade.